Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our speaker series. We'll give it a couple of minutes to let folks enter the room. Let us know in the chat where you're joining from. As it turns out, Evan and I are in the same city. Hey, sir. Good to see you. Mexico City. Hi, Jesse.
Right,
Thanks for
Mexico
joining
City.
us. I've always wanted to go there.
Hey, Linda.
Santa Monica.
Yeah,
All right. Thanks for joining us, TJ. Also, if anyone has gone to a festival recently, I'd love to know where you've been or if you're going to one in the future. What are you looking forward to? I feel like I haven't been to a festival in a minute, but I was telling Evan earlier that I had been to Lollapalooza before, if anyone has ever been there. Went to Lost in Dreams in the summer. Oh,
All
that's
right.
awesome.
Wow, 7 stars. Nope.
7 stars. Solstice in Guatemala.
Then
Wow.
Envision Costa Rica. So,
All right. Hey, Kennedy. These sound amazing. All right. Well, it's 2:03, sorry. Talking in West Coast speak.
it's
Um,
504.
yeah, 5:03 for us East Coasters. But I think we can go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, welcome to BRIC's Pre-Apprenticeship Speaker Series, where we aim to give you an inside look at the various careers across entertainment, media, and tech with help from the industry pros themselves. I'm Sarah. I'm BRIC's Director of Communications and your moderator for this series. And today we're talking all about, if you couldn't tell, preparing for careers and festivals and major events. And we're joined by our very special guest, Evan Tzeng here, who is the founder of StayAltered and the steering committee member of Coalition of Festivals and Major Events, or COFAME, as we like to call it, a great friend of the BRIC Foundation, whose mission is to equip the next generation workforce with the critical skills and knowledge needed to create safer, more sustainable, and socially responsible festivals and major events. Before we dive in, I do want to remind everyone that we always host a live Q&A throughout this session. So feel free to use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions you have for Evan along the way about festival careers, about managing large events. And with that, I'll turn it over to Evan to please tell us more about your background, your experience, and about careers in this space.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, y'all. Sarah and I were just talking before this call, and we were figuring out how we wanted to steer this conversation. And I think it's really important to level set with what festivals actually are. We usually think of festivals like Lollapalooza and Coachella, maybe Solstice, Envision, 7 stars, but they're actually so much broader than that. And for anybody looking to get into festivals and what we call major events, there are so many different ways. There's so many different events out there that if you are trying to think about how you can work in these, let alone build a career in these, you don't have to necessarily just look at the Coachellas and Lollapaloozas of the world. In fact, it's not my recommendation. And most people in this industry will tell you they have to start at one of the big ones that started in 2000. So what I think would be helpful here, Sarah, is just a quick level setting of what festivals and major events are, and then we can open it up. I really want this to be a conversation with everybody, so please bring your questions. Um, we love talking. This is a chance where I will be mostly inappropriate. I'll try to keep it appropriate, but mostly inappropriate. So if you have some serious questions that you always wanted to ask that you haven't had anybody ask, I'll try and answer them. Let me
Perfect.
do this. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Good.
We can see it.
All right. Do this.
Evan, if you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit more slowly, I know we're having some audio issues here. We got a comment just saying it's a little bit hard to hear your audio, Evan.
Yeah. I'll try and just flag it for me. How's the speaking pace? I'll start here and tell me, 'cause I can't see the notes when I'm presenting, Sarah, so feel free to cut me off and let me know if I need to change things up, okay?
Okay.
All right. This is a short, well, long, but a short list of some of the festivals and major events I've had a real privilege of working with. And some of them you may know, some of them you may not know. Some of them you may say, that's a festival. And this is probably one of the questions that a lot of people ask. What are festivals? And this is what I want to break down for all of y'all. So when we talk about festivals, you know the ones that we usually talk about, but before the festival industry was even a thing, we've been doing festivals. It's a really critical and core part in the human experience. And as far back as we can tell, there's evidence and documents and proof that festivals have been part of humanity in the beginning. Festivals are rituals. They tell us about the passing of time, whether it's a harvest festival or a water festival or a birthday or a death or a wedding. Every single one of these events can be festivals in and of themselves. What happens now as this world has kind of evolved and social media, like, sharing of cultures and experiences, is festivals have become in and of themselves celebrations of festivals, of the fact that we get together and that we celebrate it. And so what may have started as a religious festival today has become so much more than that. In fact, it can be embedded into other festivals. Some festivals are a collection of festivals, all unto themselves, and they celebrate the diversity in all of the different humans celebrate. Festivals are used by communities, cultures, society to help us build relationships with each other, to say, hey, this is what we all do celebrate together. And if we do celebrate that together, this is what we have in common. These are the things that happen, and I'm sure every single one of you can think of at least 2, 3, 4, or 5, not more, are unique to you and who you are that other people might not celebrate. There are their own variations, but at the core of what we talk about festivals, we talk about fat and fun, we talk about the bringing together of people, and we talk about how the people structure their lives together. This is one of my favorite quotes. Russ Bennett is a creative director, one of the visionaries for Fish Festival, Bonnaroo, and Tennessee, outside of San Francisco. Festivals are a microcosm of our society. When Bonnaroo happens in Tennessee, it's the 6th largest city in Tennessee for the weekend that is happening. And so everything that happens in a city happens at a festival. And when you work in festivals, when you think about building your career in festivals, it's not so different from thinking about a career in urban planning, civic leadership, and really any of the other jobs that you see out there in the world. There's probably a version of that job at a festival. And because of that, festivals serve as both kind of a mirror and a portal. I like to talk about festivals as a reflection of who we are as humans, and also a window into who we can be, who humanity has the potential to become. Most critically, when we celebrate, when we produce festivals, these are joyful celebrations. They remind us that we are alive. But they also show us, again, that mirror and that portal, they show us who we are. And all of the dark, dangerous sides of being human, of living in this world, happen at festivals as well. So when you think about a career in festivals, it's not just who we can be, but also who are we? what happens when we bring humans together? How do we protect each other? How do we keep each other safe? How do we remind each other that we're here to celebrate? These are some of the critical questions that we ask when we have the time. But in your job, you work in customers, it looks very different. These are very tactical questions. They're very hard skills that you have to acquire. And you also have to have the soft skills that you need to be a better leader to produce safer, more sustainable, socially equitable stuff, like Sarah introduced. That's really why we exist. So in this industry, which is a $1 trillion industry, festivals are a huge part of that. And just there's a lot of money that is being made at these events. There's a lot of money that you're spending just to pay for a ticket to go to any one of these shows now. They're huge endeavors. And because of that, they can be very lucrative. They're also very risky. They are part of a larger ecosystem as well. Festivals are part of what I look at as a $10 trillion for the tourism industry. If we travel across the world to Belgium for Smile Lab, travel from Mexico to California for Burning Man, for Coachella, all around the world, we will travel to festivals. And that means that festivals are a real reason why we travel. And if we can tap into that, and if we can look at festivals as a larger part of this huge $10 trillion ecosystem, there are many, many more opportunities, many more careers that can be built. So, I want to leave you with this, turn it around to you. We can talk about this as we're asking questions, as Sarah and I, and what are festivals? What role will you play? There's almost limitless options. If you have a background of construction or utilities, there's definitely jobs for you in festivals. If you have an education in accounting or sustainability, there's definitely roles for you in festivals as well. What role will you play? I want to talk very quickly about who we are. Coalition of Festivals and Major Events is a grassroots organization. We are a coalition of directors, producers, department heads who come together to integrate safety, sustainability. We want to integrate this not just into our festivals, but we want to do it backstage where we work. We want to do it in our offices when we're not on site. And we want to integrate these principles, these values into our lives as well. This is a quote from a wonderful, you could say one of the forefathers, Burning Man, Danger, Danger. What he sees Burning Man as is a project, a living experiment of what can happen out in a desert in Nevada, the magic that can happen there. And he sees the project as not just the magic that happens here, but an attempt to take the magic that happens at a festival and bring it out into the rest of the world. So everybody can experience the power and magic of the festival without having to be there. That's it for now. I'm happy to unpack more of this. I know for some of the participants who have joined that we've already talked about this. But Sarah, why don't we dive into the conversation, and I can also talk a little bit about the work that Coalition is doing to prepare the next generation for opportunities to work at events and festivals like we talked about.
Sounds good. I think we touched a little bit about, the kinds of roles that exist in this space, from like construction, utilities, sustainability, event management itself. I'm wondering, Evan, if you can speak more to those, like what are exactly those varied roles? How did you come up as far as your experience in the space? Starting out, and what opportunities exist for those who are looking to break into this space?
Yeah. We touched on this briefly, but there really are almost infinite number of opportunities at festivals. Each festival has what we call dozens of departments. And these departments can be everything from production, operations, sponsorship, concessions, ticketing, marketing. We need volunteers and workers in all of these departments. We have HR teams and volunteer teams that help provide the staff and the volunteers. for all of these different departments, so those are departments all unto themselves. And then we have leaders, we have managers, we have operators. There's a lot of work that goes into festivals before they take place, all of the production and building, logistics, and planning that needs to happen. So that's everything from if you are a 3D renderer, or if you work in AutoCAD or Google SketchUp or any of the other programs like that, there's jobs for your festivals too, because there's a lot of work that goes into planning a site. If you don't do any of those things, you do marketing, you do sales, you do communication. We've got lots of jobs in our industry as well there. So most people say, I want to work in a festival. You very rarely will be able to do it all. The question becomes, what do you want to do? What role will you play? And when you know, or when you have an idea, at least something that you're curious about, something that you might really, something that speaks to you, who you are, who you want to be, I always recommend to everybody getting into festivals, start with what you know, start with what you care about, and see if there's a way. You're a chef, you're a cook, you care about feeding people and providing them nourishment. There's lots of cooks and lots of chefs that festival. Not just backstage for the artist, but also front of house in the ground, feeding everybody out there. So there's really, I can't think of any job out there that doesn't have some sort of relationship on the festival. And how do you get in? Okay, now I know which parts of the festival I'm interested in. Then you start small. This is what I almost always recommend. A lot of people say they want to work Bonnaroo or they want to work Coachella. Really hard to get those gigs. They're big festivals, and then they're hiring for a lot of people. But you almost never start without a resume, a connection, a relationship, a reason that you can do a great job at it. And the way that you do that is important. So some of those photos that I showed you earlier, they're not just huge gatherings. Some of them are really small, some of them are really intimate, and there are versions of them that happen in their own small ways everywhere around the world, every day, all the time. You like to throw parties, you like to bring your friends together for dinner, you like to help out office, you like to fundraise. All of these are different examples of getting the skills, the hard skills and also the soft skills of what it takes to get into practice. So that's what I always recommend.
That's great. I want to dive into more about you, Evan. Like, how did you get your start in this space, and what was your interest that pulled you into festivals, and what was kind of like your niche that you started to carve out for yourself?
I've always loved music. I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised, Cali kid, and the first festival I worked was a tiny, tiny, tiny. Um, it happened in a villa out on the ground, and the producer of that festival, which was a very avant-garde classical music festival in Saratoga, California, he was also the producer for San Jose Jazz Festival. And I grew up on classical music. Well, on my dad's side, I grew up on classical music. On my mom's side, I grew up on Nirvana and Enya. It's very interesting childhood, very wide range of music that I was exposed to. So the producer of this tiny festival in Villa Montalvo to produce the Jazz Festival in Bruce, he said, "We need help on San Jose Jazz Festival." And if you haven't heard of any of these shows, that's okay, because this is proving my point. My journey into working at Bonnaroo, working at Coachella, working outside lands, Burning Man, that was from that point at least 6 years away. So when I started in festivals, the first shows that I did, 16, 15, 16, 17, bar backing for the San Francisco Asian American Film Festival, finance runner for San Jose Jazz Festival, volunteer marketer, tabling flyers at events, promoting a festival at like First Fridays in San Jose when I was in my teens. I had no idea I was even working. My career started because I was really thinking about music, and I somehow found somebody who said, "We're looking for volunteers." I volunteered for a show. We got asked to work on another show. And from there, I asked somebody else, if they said, "We need your help." And that's how I was able to start working more in the show. I wound up going to college. And it's not a path for everybody. And I wouldn't say that college was important for me to get into the industry that I'm in. But I will say that going to college in New York, and that's where I went to school, was a huge game changer in terms of that network that I could build. For those of you who are in smaller communities, in rural communities, and I live in a rural community half of the year now, getting into festivals can be a little bit tricky, but it's not impossible. When you live in a vibrant cultural city like New York or say like Montreal, there's at least, in the summer in Montreal, how many 20, 30 different festivals all
So
happening at
many.
the same time. Yeah, it's a festival city. And so there's an embarrassment of opportunities that are available to you. But you can't just walk in and say, I want a job. Prove yourself to be able to have some skills. You have to have the soft skills to build that network. And eventually, somebody's going to give you a shot, and that you keep going from there. I can talk about the rest of my career and how I wound up working at Superfly for 6 years and Danny Wimmer Presents and all of that. But long story short, I think it's really critical to know that, like volunteering, I'll add one more thing, because I saw Bessie add something here. So, how I got my foot in the door at Superfly. I went to Bonnaroo in 2006, and I couldn't afford to buy a ticket, so I went as a volunteer. I applied to be a volunteer at Bonnaroo, and the volunteer coordinator, I still remember her so well, Karen Scamernack, who's still in the industry. Shout out Karen if you ever hear this. Karen assigned me to one of the information booths in the campgrounds, and I took the shift that nobody wanted, which was Sunday night, because it was still a sunshine. And I was like, I don't know who Phyllis is. I'm an Asian kid from California. Little did I know I would come to really love Phyllis. Oh, I missed it. Golf Radio had so many other great shows. And because I took a shift that very few other people wanted, and because I showed up to all of my shifts, which that's how low the bar is sometimes for events, and anybody who's been an event producer can tell you sometimes the bar is that low. Showed up on time, did the stuff that nobody else wanted to do, and thanked Karen after I was done and said, I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity. That was all it took. And I had an opportunity a few years later to apply for an internship. And because I had volunteered at the festival, that was what got my foot in the door, as well as a warm intro from a company I was interning for at the time, who knew the person who hired the interns at Superfly, one of the producers at Bonnaroo. And so that's how I got my internship at Superfly, and in the right place at the right time, worked hard, a lot of luck along the way. And that's how I got my first job offer to join Superfly as the assistant. An assistant to several people on our marketing sponsorship team, one of the co-founders of Superfly. That's how I worked my way up over 6 years to leading the creative and strategy at Superfly. And it's a lot more to it, but I'll pause there unless we need to share more about
That's
how
amazing.
long, yeah.
I love hearing that like first how that volunteering experience led to, kind of your foot in the door. And so what I'm hearing is some of the keys that made that possible for you, of getting to that next level, was showing up on time, being a friendly face, saying thank you after, it's all wrapped up and done, and managing that and keeping that connection warm. Could you talk, Evan, a little bit more about some of those like soft skills that really make someone in this space stand out and succeed in this industry?
The short answer always is treat people the way you want to be treated. It's like trite but true. The long answer is, how do I sum this up? Soft skills, punctuality, of course, awareness. I talked about festivals and how great things can happen at them, but terrible things can happen. This is a risky industry. A lot of people can get hurt, injured. Burnout is very often in the industry. We're not going to cover up. These things are real in live events. having an incredible level of situational awareness and self-awareness goes a long, long way in life events. So when I talk about self-awareness, I talk about what am I feeling? What am I saying? How are people perceiving me right now? What is the energy I'm putting out? And then the situational awareness, the other side of it is what's going on around me? Are things that shouldn't be happening? Are there things that can be improved? And how can I improve it? If there are a couple trash cans in the middle of a really massive crowd falling area, can those trash cans just move off to the side and still serve a purpose? If I see somebody who's looking lightheaded, who looks a little bit out of touch, can I just reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything that you need? That one-on-one level of situational awareness is really critical at festivals. That's what we have to look at each other. And I think that comes, when it comes to my last soft skill I'll talk about for now, because I can think of dozens, awareness, compassion. It's a hard industry. There's a lot of challenges. Being able to be compassionate for others, being able to have compassion for yourself, these are really, really tough soft skills that I'm talking about here. It was hard for me to learn it as a high school. It took me many years. What I'm talking about here is taking care of yourself and taking care of others, treating people the way you want to be treated. And behind that, what goes up to that is knowing who you are, knowing what you think, knowing what you feel, knowing how things are unfolding around you, what's going on around you, and being compassionate. Because there's a lot of things that you wind up in a very intense environment where things could really tilt one way or another. If you have a level of self-awareness, you have a level of situational awareness, you have a level of compassion, you are going to be able to take care of that situation. And if people see you take care of that situation, you're going to go.
I love that. I think that's solid advice is for this field, but also in a lot of roles too, just across the board, which I think festivals covers a lot of different roles anyway, right? You talked about some of the larger issues at hand that could happen, the dangers of, festival events, the safety issues, but also like the mental burnout that could happen from working like long hours, weekends, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit more about like what are those challenges that, that people in this industry face? What are the current challenges and what are the skills that can help prepare this next generation of talent to better address those for future events?
Where do we start? These are really dynamic environments, and the pressure is very high. So I think what a lot of people don't realize very quickly, don't realize but very quickly realize when they show up to a festival is the pressure is real. Doors don't open on time. A lot of things can go in very quickly. If security measures are not in place, things can go wrong very quickly. So the amount of pressure and stress that you have to deal with, the responsibility that you bear can be very, very high. When I think about the challenges, like those kind of challenges, what that leads to is burnout, mental health, sleep abuse, lack of sleep, which has many, many other on the rest of your health, whether physical, physiological. Being able to know what you need, know how to take care of yourself is critical. And being able to create an environment where even through all that stress, you can still work well together. You can still communicate with each other. You can take care of each other and look out for each other. This is one of the things we tell our future FAME leaders all the time. You got to look out for each other. Your network is so important. Health as well. So your community is also going to be there for you when times are tough. Nobody's at a festival working by themselves. It's a team effort. And the better you get to know everybody, say hi to every security guard you walk by. Say hi to everybody picking up trash. Thank them. Thank your team members, thank your managers, and thank the people that are reporting to you. Gratitude, it's not just something that some other people need to better handle the challenges that they're dealing with. It also helps me when I'm dealing with the challenges of my job, is just to take a moment and say thank you, thank you, CJ, thank you, Aaron. Those are the things that can actually be really, really helpful to managing the challenges that we talk about, things like mental health and stress. So, what are the challenges you talk about, too, Sarah? Or is that
Yeah,
that's
I guess I love those answers, first of all, and couldn't agree with you more. Gratitude is a free currency and it's renewable. It's a renewable resource, in my opinion. Um, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the like industry trends and challenges that you're seeing, maybe how like sustainability is increasingly, an issue at, large festivals, which create a lot of waste, right? So what are some of the creative solutions that you've enacted to combat that? For example, I'm wondering, is AI making like carving out a space in festivals too, right? What are kind of those larger challenges surrounding the overall industry?
sustainability is a huge one. It's a huge one because there's a really challenging thing to deal with. These are such high risk events and they're so expensive that sustainability is almost an act. And before I even talk more about what are some of the solutions there, let me just also frame up what I see sustainability as. A lot of us think about waste management, which is a huge part of sustainability. So there's the environmental component. But when I talk to festivals about sustainability in my own work and career, the sustainability environment is just a piece of the overall picture. In fact, there's actually definitely three, you could even say four or five pillars, and everybody debates what pillars they are, but generally there's the environmental pillar, there's the social pillar, the cultural pillar, and then economic or financial pillar. Okay. Environmental, festivals consume an insane amount of fuel. A lot of that fuel is diesel and fossil fuel. They create a tremendous amount of waste. A lot of that waste can't be diverted from landfill, and there's many impacts of that. There's also, did I say social or cultural? I'll do social, because that's what's in mind. So the social sustainability festivals take place in communities, and the people that live around festivals and attending the festivals can be very negatively impacted by the huge amount of crowd and traffic that come to and leave festivals. That's just one. They're very expensive. So how do we allow festivals, which should be a celebration of everything that makes us human and brings us together, how do we make them accessible to people? This is a huge challenge in our industry. So I would say accessibility is another thing that a lot of festivals culture. The cultural pillar of sustainability is a really interesting. There's several ways you can break down culture and sustainability. So I usually talk about it as historical culture and living culture. The living culture, that, whoever you're into now, Thalia, or you name your art. The historical culture is, where are we? How did we all wind up here? If we're going to be at a festival in San Francisco, isn't it great that we actually get to go to a festival that celebrates history and the legacy and the culture of San Francisco? San Francisco as a place that was a land of opportunity, innovation, but also for gay rights, civil rights. How do we weave that into our festival? So the cultural piece, I think, is one that is actually often overlooked. When we talk about cultural sustainability at festivals, how do we protect and preserve, celebrate both the historical and living culture? The last piece I mentioned is the economic one. And as you can see, I think one of the things are interconnected. And I think thank you for coming with me on the sustainability side quest, because the point that I wanted to arrive at, we talked about the challenges of sustainability challenges. These are all interconnected. So economic sustainability. I mentioned high ticket prices. I mentioned other costs of free, out of control.
Evan, you're breaking up a bit in this part. Would you mind just repeating that again?
We talked the part about the intersection of these pillars. Okay, so after the intersection of these pillars, then wrap up on economic sustainability. So I mentioned the cost, the ticket prices being very high, but also the cost of producing festivals are very, very high. It's probably one of the biggest challenges facing the industry right now is these are just so expensive endeavors, so risky. And, we saw Coachella sold out in 3 days. What we didn't see as much as 100 festivals didn't happen in 2020. I think at least 100 in the US. And this is a statistic I just saw recently. 100 festivals didn't even. And there's a huge problem that the industry is kind of trying to reckon with, which is the mega festivals, the big festivals, those are going to be okay. But right now, it's all the middle and small and indie festivals that are really, really struggling. Because if we lose those, I don't think anybody here just wants to go to Coachella and Lollapalooza as much as awesome festivals. Sarah, you with Kamala. I personally love Coachella. We want more options then. There's so many other festivals, so many other types of cool ways to go. A lot of these smaller and independent festivals do a better job with sustainability because of who they are and their values and what they prioritize. Again, not throwing shade at the big ones, but saying that this is the reality of what we're dealing with. So economic sustainability of festivals, and that means the economic sustainability of our jobs and careers in festivals, those are all at risk. I don't have good answers for you there. We can spend an hour on each one of those and still not solve it. But I do know that bring it back home for everybody here, your ability to be aware of this, you can think about this and be proactive in how you come up with ideas and how you think about your role that you can play and how you can help. Like I see Jesse here talking about volunteers, staffing, and workforce training and development. Huge challenge for festivals, but also huge opportunities to do great work socially, to do great work economically even. So those are things that we all need to be talking about. And if you are interested and you're curious and you want to tackle these things, there's a lot of people out there that have big questions. If you have some answers, there could be an opportunity for you that not just to come in as a worker in a festival, to actually play a larger role and support and build the capacity and the accessibility and the sustainability of our industry.
Amazing advice. I love hearing all about, all of those pillars when it comes to sustainability, because I think oftentimes you only think of it in like one sense. So it's interesting to hear about sustainability from an economic standpoint too. Very, very interesting. Evan, I wonder, did you touch on how AI might be impacting this space as well, or?
I said, and thank you for reminding me, because I really want to make sure we talk about this, and I think this would be a great place in Q&A. I'm curious, for everybody, I'm going to throw questions to the attendees. How are you using AI to make festivals safer, more sustainable, more socially impactful, or to improve your skills, to improve your soft or hard skills to enter into the workforce? AI there's an advantage that the live industries that a lot of other industries don't, because this is not going to be an industry that can be easily automated. And so I'm not saying it won't happen, but it's really hard for me to envision a future where there's a totally autonomous festival without a single human doing anything at a show. Whereas when you look at other industries, when you look at many, many other career opportunities right now, that's not the case. So if you're in festival, you have a unique kind of advantage here, as opposed to all of your other friends who are out there hustling in their own industries. There's some job security for now, but I can tell you for a fact that every single person I know that works in customer service is using AI in one way or another to improve their efficiency, to improve their skills, to improve their output. And you got to get on it. And, if you're a high schooler right now, and this message is for you, because I think college mostly oriented around high schoolers and students, embrace it. You have an advantage that I don't have because I'm not native in AI. I wasn't born in it. And I'm playing catch up as much as I can. But I see the same thing for my generation around social media, how social media is now basically everything for marketing, everything for building an artist career, everything for selling tickets. The ones that really took advantage of social media and used it in a way that enabled them to produce greater work, be more creative, to be more efficient. Those are the ones that are doing well. How are you going to use it? That's my question for you. If you can figure that out, because whether it's in automating database entry for shuttles, whether it's in improving pricing for drinks, whether it's in curating particular lineup, whether it's in, man, I mean, I'm thinking of Jesse here and his role in volunteers. Yeah, creating volunteer application summaries, reviewing candidate, better time, like more intelligent slotting of volunteers into different areas and time slots, volunteer management. Like it's a limitless what AI can do. So get ahead of it, understand how to make it for you. I can talk about all of the pitfalls and all of the dangers of AI, but I don't think we can talk about that. I can say they're real. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm trying to gloss over it, but figure out how you are going to use this tool for your advantage and put yourself ahead of everybody else applying for these jobs in the workforce, and you're going to have a leg up.
I think that's a very balanced, cautiously optimistic take.
There's a lot of things to be very nervous of and things that we have to talk more about. We talked about mental health, we talked about sustainability, and like I said, I could unpack all of those things and we could just hang out here until there's no attendees left in this room, and even you drop Sarah, I'll still be talking about it because this is a huge, huge, huge topic. There's a lot of upside, but there's a lot of downside. Figure out how to make it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Even just doing the speaker series too, hearing how other professionals across different industries are dealing with AI and how they're viewing it too. So very interesting to hear your perspective, Evan. And I think, actually bringing it back to our previous session last week with Austin Johnston, he was also optimistic too, saying that live events aren't going anywhere for a while. If anything, people want more of that human interaction component through, like, despite all of this streamlining through AI. So I'm definitely optimistic about it. But do think it's smart to learn how to use it if you need it, and finding those ways to streamline things here and there where you can. I do want to remind folks we have a Q&A here. If you do have any questions for Evan specifically about this space, about anything that you've heard so far, please do feel free to ask us your questions. We have the time. I see a couple of folks, chiming in with how they've used AI in some of their work as well. So that's interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on crowd management very quickly.
Yes.
Gnarly one. I would say that most of our industry has had a very tenuous relationship with crowd management. The world, EDC, Orlando. I think that's what happened. I didn't quite catch what happened, by the way, out in Orlando, TJ, but I heard some things about weather. I mean, we didn't even talk about climate change yet, but that's a whole nother thing. The festival industry is a very, very, very vulnerable industry. It's already, it's here. Like, you can deny it all you want. I'm not going to try and stop you from denying it, but once you start denying it and come to your senses, it's here, and it's really bad for our industry, really bad for humanity. what we have to figure out is how are we going to produce these events in ways that are going to be, like I said, safer? And there's a lot of great organizations, ESA, Event Safety Alliance. If anybody doesn't know them, check them out. If you work in meteorology, if you work in climate, help. There's a lot of people looking to you for answers. But I can tell you this for fact, like explaining about cloud management, AI. The ability to analyze crowd flow and intelligently understand how to better crowd professionals.
Evan, sorry to interrupt you. I think we're having troubles with your connection. You're freezing a bit.
Now,
Let me know if you can hear me.
you were cracking up there, then you're better. Am I still?
I think you're better now. You were breaking up quite a bit in talking about AI.
AI, did you hear crowd management or all of that?
The beginning of crowd management.
So AI is only going to help with part of the solution that we need to better manage crowds. We need to do a better job of helping people understand that they need to look out for each other. We need to do a better job of understanding how we set up our shows and how we can actually better manage crowds, which AI can help with. But humans also have to be there, and we have to be taking care of each other. That's the best we can do. And so this is my recommendation to AI is not a savior. I'm going to be very real. It's going to save a lot of things, like maybe a little bit of time, and some like really monotonous tasks. But it's not going to prevent disasters from happening. So there's so much other work that we need to do into mental health, into understanding physical, physics, why things on slopes are dangerous, and what degree of angle of slope people per square foot or square meter, whatever unit you use. These are all different things that we're going to feed into being able to create safer shows. So yeah, AI can do a lot of things that I think we haven't done with humans in terms of crowd management. That's just one example that I wanted to double tap on because TJ brought it up.
All right. Just checking to see if there are any questions that have come in. Jesse joking, AI is running interference on Evan's sage wisdom. It is. Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, we've talked about, utilizing AI as a technology, something that could help potentially. I'm wondering, Evan, are there any other technical skills that would be useful to know if you're, looking at a career in managing festivals?
Yeah. In my generation, like I grew up learning how to type, and I think that's still true. Everybody's got to learn how to type. It just seems like you're probably doing the same programs that I was using to learn how to be a human. There are a few things. Yeah. So when we talk about soft skills like etiquette and punctuality, a lot of that comes back to social awareness and organization. What does organization look like in terms of technical skills? Database management, knowing how to look at rows and columns in the table, and understanding how to make information from that data is actually a huge part of our job at most people. PowerPoint, believe it or not, like a lot of our time is spent on computers doing things like working in tables, working in emails, working in presentations. You don't really see that because it's not who cares, I guess you would say, but that's the vast majority of the job. When you talk to anybody who runs a festival, you kind of see it kind of, I don't know. I've heard this analogy of the Matrix. You took I think it's the red pill, it's been wild, you took the Matrix, but now you can't see, like you're not lost at this like fairyland, like incredible joyful place. All you see are dollar signs and choices and decisions that were made. And so once you see a festival that way, one, unfortunately, you've lost your innocence, and festivals have been forever ruined for you. But two, you are getting standing immense amount of logistics and preparation that goes into these things. And so when we talk technical skills, that's the ability to budget, forecast, analyze patterns, use software to be able to better input the factors that help you come up with those budgets. I know some of this is maybe like a little bit advanced, so I'll break it down simply in terms of technical skills, knowing how to use computer, email, correspond, and negotiate. And if you don't know, the best thing I can say is ask, ask somebody who, if you have a chance to work with somebody, festival before it happens, hey, what is this? How does this work? Can you take a few minutes? I know you're super busy, but can you give me 10 or 15 minutes to help me understand what is this tool? What is AutoCAD? And how did they come up with these numbers? This industry is, once you're in, people are willing to share and people are willing to talk and give advice. I've been given some of the best advice from like people like AutoCAD illustrators and creative directors and sponsorship managers. They all have technical skills, and don't know what the technical skill is. Somebody who they will probably tell you.
That's great. I love that. We do have a question here from TJ, who asks, I think going back to the economic sustainability point that we were talking about earlier, is safety or profits more important? I understand that having a festival is a business. At EDC Orlando, there are issues of crowd crushing. However, the founder of Insomniac released a statement saying it was a crowd surge, not a crowd crush. My question is, why don't festivals have a higher price point for tickets and smaller attendance rather than selling as many tickets as possible? Evan, what's your take on that?
Economic. Yep. This is a really challenging one. The best way to answer this is it's really hard to sell 10 tickets at $100,000 each to make $1 million on your festival. But some could also say it's really hard to profit on a festival that sells 100,000 tickets at $10 each. So you have this really kind of like interesting, it's not just an economic change, right? So it's either you're asking, you're framing up the question in a really interesting way, which is, why don't I just sell every ticket is $10 and sell 100,000 of them on $1 million? It's hard. You know, there are fixed costs and variable costs, but in a nutshell, is the cost of just doing the show, and then there's incremental costs on top that change based upon the number of people that are coming. And then when you have more people, there are challenges that also unfold with that. So that's the best way to kind of sum it up in the briefest nutshell. And then you flip it around the other way. I think if everybody could figure out how to sell 10 tickets for $100,000 to make $1 million, they would be thrilled. But that's just not easy to do. And I can bet you probably if you were at an event with 10 people who each paid $100,000 for that ticket, it's probably not super cool, very fun. And that's the interesting thing here. Festivals are constantly trying to figure out, yes, we want more people to be there, but we can't just have, you know, a lower ticket price for everybody and let everybody in, because the operation costs to ensure everybody has a great experience there is really, really challenging. And then flip it around, if every festival was, let's talk about Burning, $800 a ticket, it gets really hard to sell those tickets. Once you have a really deep, super compelling, awesome experience that everybody wants to be there at, it's really hard. There's a lot of competition. There's 100 festivals failed in 2025. Not only failed financially, it didn't even go up or shut down if they did go up. So you have this really interesting challenge right now, which is I think a lot of people are asking that question either, but yeah, it's really hard. One other factor, oh yeah, you just nailed it right there. There's a statistic or it's called a KPI, key performance indicator, and it's exactly that. It's called guest spend. So how much are you making per attendee? You have an attendee that paid $250 for a ticket. Great. And then you have another attendee who also paid $250 for a ticket, but they also paid an extra $100 to get into, let's say, a GA plus or VIP. And they buy a couple of years. And then they have food and they want the t-shirt. That statistic right there gets spent is a physical number. And the more people you have spending more money on your show, higher the guest spend, and the more people that you have, the more opportunities you have to build a financially viable event. And so, without going too inside baseball, and it's exactly that. Like, there is something to be said about the more people that we can get out there, the more open they're drinking, having fun, having a good time. And that can be, if you can service at volume, all of those people, you have an opportunity to make quite a significant amount of money.
Thank you for that very in-depth answer, Evan. That was a great answer to TJ's question here. I do want to be cognizant of time. We are right at the end of our session. So I just want to say thank you, Evan, for imparting your wisdom, sharing your experience and your perspective with us as it relates to careers in festivals and major events. It was so great having you in conversation today. I do want to remind folks, our next speaker series session will take place December 2nd, and that will be diving into more of how sustainability plays a role specifically as it relates to entertainment. So if you're interested in that component of this presentation, definitely make sure to tune in to that next session with us there. But again, Evan, if you have any imparting words for our group, please let us know.
Take care of each other, look out for each other, work hard, play hard, in that order, and you got this. The next generation of festival leaders, and I'm guessing there's a couple here in this room with us, we're counting on you because we need you. This industry has a lot that's going for it, great, but there's a lot of things that we can do better. And we're looking for the next generation to come in and help us safer and more sustainably and more beneficially for everybody, not just the attendee, not just the artist, not just the promoter, but the local community, the workers, everybody. So come on in. We need you.
Amazing. Thank you for that endorsement for the industry as a whole. All right, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, BRIC Foundation. Shout out to FAM. If anybody's interested in Coalition, check us out, coalitionof.org. We run future FAME leader programs. We're trying to train the next generation to create safer and more sustainable shows. So that's my plug.
Perfect.
Shout out Linda, shout out TJ.
All right. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you, Evan, and hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everybody.